Saturday, Little Saturday Consciousness. Welcome to the Paradigm Shift, episode 213. We have a dynamic, brilliant guest on today we're super pumped about. But first, let's bring on Uncle Dave. Let's kick this off. Let's get this party started. Let us know here in the comments what you guys are most pumped about right now. And what has you jazzed about life right now? Is it business? Is it fulfillment? Is it passions? Is it career? Is it everything in between? Let us know. Let's bring on Uncle Dave. Then we're going to bring on Stephanie. Hey, you. Thank you for your patience.
What's up, buddy?
Little technical difficulties.
It happens.
It does. Good to see you again.
Great to see you again.
What are you
And
nibbling on?
I have Kirkland from my nutritionist, Kirkland protein bars after I work out.
Nice. You got enough
Yeah,
work ready?
always
What'd you work out?
in my gym.
What did you work out besides your
Oh,
mind?
I always work out the same things, but in different ways. So I do cardio, strength, stretching, balance, and my meditation.
Beautiful. It's interesting how the priorities change on what's important to you for a workout compared to maybe when we were younger and a little bit more egoic, if you will. At least I can relate to that.
Well, I think the difficulty you're still having is you think that somehow there's not a difference between where I am at 57 and you are at 40. So the way that you're looking at when you were younger and the way you worked out is different than the way you work out now is the same way look at how you work out now compared to how I work out.
Yeah. Not
You and
40
I,
years.
you and I don't, you and I don't work out in the same way.
No. Uh, Real quickly, the event that you had this week, it's just been awesome to watch that
Which
particular
one?
model. The event in New York City,
Oh,
not the
okay.
I meant the dinner. The amount of cool people in those rooms, and I remember when you first started this particular route and where it is now, it's just awesome. And I encourage anyone, no matter where Dave travels, if you're in that city, get to one of these dinners.
What's so funny is that you were one of the people that resisted coming, and you were one of many people, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. Now we oversell them, so just understanding how people learn, and it takes time, and you have to, as a coach, be patient with people because they, number one, don't know what they don't know, and two, they have varying degrees of and varying degrees and levels of understanding and awareness. And so you have to let them, when it's the right time, be able, but it doesn't stop you from encouraging them, right? I made sure that I continued to push you saying, why didn't you show up for this? Why didn't you show up for this? You're missing the opportunity. You're missing the opportunity that would provide you what you're looking for. So you're getting so busy, right, that you're forgetting to make money. And you're getting so busy, you're forgetting to surround yourself with the people that would take millions of dollars to get to, huge sales forces to get in front of, and yet you could just be sitting down next to them with a greater statistical success of articulating the value that you can provide to them. A lot of times these options, opportunities, and touches of favor are given to you and you seem to think that you're being punished. That's why we guarantee everything we do. And the hope and the trust, is not a risk. It's an assurance. So many people think that it's a risk and it's actually an assurance. So hope itself, so many people see as a risk when they get too afraid to hope that or to put themselves out there. And that's not a risk. It's actually an assurance that's based off of the technology of the universe or something called faith.
Yeah, beautifully said. And it's interesting because it really is all about where you're at, what you're available for in consciousness. So depending upon, I was listening to something this morning. It's so obvious, but it's so true. And then we'll bring on our guest. Where most people dictate how they feel based upon what's happening, when in the contrary, you dictate how you're feeling, and then you experience the world in a totally different way. So even just like when you're giving advice or suggesting something to someone, I'm sure you can relate to this too throughout your journey, you have to be available for it to receive it. Otherwise, if you're not available to receive, you can hear exactly what you need to hear. But if you're not available, you won't be able to take advantage of it.
Yeah, we have meaning to everything we see, right? That's as easy as it comes. And so you're going to give meaning to what you think, say, do, believe, and feel according to the inputs that you and the experience and awareness that you have. That's why a lot of times the efforts that we have is to plant seeds under trees that we may never sit under. And so I tease my kids when they roll their eyes at me. I tell them, thank you. I also tell them thank you when they argue with each other when they were younger and told each other they hated each other. I would say, thank you guys so much. You're making me feel terrific. And they'd look at me puzzled. And I say, look, number one, when you roll your eyes, you're acknowledging you heard what I said and you're planting the seed in your brain. So I'm good with that. Two, when you tell each other you hate each other and you argue with each other, I know I'm doing my job because obviously you care so much about the other person and what they think that it's causing you to react this way. I'm doing my job. If you care that much about each other, that some small thing that your sister said to you can set you off that far, there must be a strong bond of love. So I'm doing my job. I know a lot of parents may not agree with that, but it certainly works for me under the annoying strategy of being a coach, a parent, a teacher, and a mentor to as many people as I can.
Beautiful. I'm going to bring in our guest. I wanted to ask you, you have quite the journey, David, as we all do. When did you, and I know it's a lifelong transformation, you're still figuring things out, but what age around did you really start to put it all together? Meaning life experience turned into wisdom.
I've been on that practice for about 18 years. So once I started to open my mind and look inside of me, not outside of me, the real paradigm shift was getting out of this attachment and having not only wisdom, but faith. And so when I shortened that distance of resistance, my life changed and the consistency, which I always had when applied to the behaviors that were aligned with my divine direction, it created a paradigm shift, no pun intended, but also greater acceleration, aggregation, which created then compounding of outcomes that were better than I anticipated. And so that about 18 years ago is when it happened.
Beautiful. Sounds like I'm right on track.
You
Speaking
are.
of brilliant, Stephanie, good morning, and thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
Where are you dialing in from? Where are you located?
Los Angeles.
Oh, beautiful.
Never heard of it.
Cool. I love your content. I think it's so awesome and it's universal. All the stuff that you talk about is applicable for anybody. Let's just dive right in. Our audience, do a deep dive if you weren't familiar. One of the really cool things you talk about, you wrote a whole book about it, is this idea of happiness. And I wanted to ask you kind of a big question, but what is it really? And how does most of the world get it wrong?
Yeah, I grew up maybe like you guys did, and like a lot of people believing that happiness was something that came as a result or a consequence of something else, usually of getting or achieving something. And this sort of cultural conditioning that we receive about happiness is incredibly pervasive, and it leads us to chase a lot of things that we think will bring us joy in the short term and in the long run, but ultimately don't really fill the deepest needs inside of us. And so my perspective after spending 10 years researching the science of happiness is that real happiness is much more about being connected to yourself, others, and the world around you. It comes from being your authentic self and then sharing your authentic self in service to other people. And so that's the shift that I'm trying to help people to walk and to see that there's so much possibility for happiness, even when you might be going through something difficult or the world is changing or those achievements that you were once chasing feel out of reach.
Dave, speaking your language.
Yeah, this is my mission, and understanding happiness has been a journey for the last 18 years. And, some of the simpler things to help people to convey the same ideas. So many people, we were talking about attachment earlier. It's always, I'll be happy when. And, when will never come. And if we shift that to what Craig and I were talking about of, let's say I'll be happy when I make this much money. A lot of people will say that to me. I'll be happy when my business gets to $1 million, 10 million, 100. And I say, why don't you change it to I am going to make over $1 million for the sake of building a community center in Africa. And so if we can change that attachment of I'll be happy when into for the sake of what, my definition has evolved over time. And my best definition to date that represents how I feel about happiness. No scientific research involved, but simply I have an ability to enjoy the consistent everyday, persistent without quit pursuit of my potential, not what other people think, not what's missing, not what I don't have. But I believe happiness is derived by being able to enjoy what you don't like or love, being able to enjoy what other people don't like or love consistently without quitting in the pursuit of your best self, your inner self, knowing that we can't find outside of us what we can't find inside of us. So people like you, Steph, you're killing it, and just appreciate you instilling a different perspective of how people can enjoy fulfillment, passion, purpose, and profitability in their
Thank
lives.
you so much.
Well said, Dave. I think it's this something that comes to mind too is this idea that when we have an attachment to some sort of outcome, we're never quite satisfied. So if we can just change our definition of success, instead of we're doing this to achieve this, maybe success is doing it.
Mm,
And then we're in that vibration of just because we're doing it, now we're happy and successful. And it releases this concept of having to always push the goalpost back, or I'll be happy when being, I know it's cliche, but just being happy in the moment, in the process, right?
yeah, it's so true. And I think that if we can tap into that energetic shift that you're talking about, it really can unleash so much beauty in our lives. And, like, what's the point of spending years chasing something, thinking it's going to make you happy, all the while experiencing suffering as you pursue it, right? We should be finding joy on the journey, in my opinion.
So I know that there's people listening that are going to catch the replay, like, all right, so what they're saying is, I won't be happy once I get the thing. What I need to do now is activate that frequency now and offer a higher vibration right now. For someone that's not used to that and they're used to being happy when, how do they become happy right now in this moment? What's something that they could do?
One of the little mind tricks you can play on yourself is to just take happiness in the future off the table. Like, imagine that no matter what happens with this goal you're pursuing for your life, it's not going to change your current level of happiness in any way. And say that to yourself, and then say, well, if that was the case, if I knew that nothing I was doing right now was going to lead to a greater increase in happiness in the future, what would I be doing differently in this moment to try and find more joy right now? And that allows you to sort of think yourself or act yourself into a way of being that's more conducive to joy.
Beautiful. I'm very lucky to be around you guys today. David, what's coming through?
It's interesting because I even have people that are so far in their way and they attach with judgments, conditions, comparisons, that as you indicate what things mean to you in your divine direction, they'll get caught up into the intricacies of, the word joy or the word happiness. I've had people just lash out in some sort of projection of insecurity that happiness isn't enough. We need joy. I was like, well, it depends on what you believe to be the definition of joy or happiness. Or I love the word harmony. For me. I love the word harmony. It represents something different. And I look for the criteria, and I find that being able to describe and find where people are at, as we were mentioning before, Craig, to say, look, my capabilities, if I market myself as someone who wants to empower over 1 billion people to be happy, you expose yourself to a lot of attacks in a variety of reasons, and some warranted, by the way. And I learn a lot by those people who have suggestions in a positive, constructive manner to help me evolve my understanding of this mission of mine to empower over 1 billion people to be happy. But I do know that my skills, my knowledge, and my desire is to teach abundance and to understand, for example, the energy of money. I talk about making a lot of money. Money is an energy. All energy is here that it transforms. So can you transform your money into, instead of an argument of heirs when you die, instead, can you transform it into good deeds? And so for me, I love to make a lot of money for the sake of helping a lot of people and for the sake of having a lot of fun, enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential. And so I encourage people to really look for unification of terms and not be so insecure in the understanding of happiness that it actually is the inverse reaction of what we're trying to do, all three of us, which is help people be happy. They get caught up into attacks of, the greatest attack is thinking what other people think, or not forgiving other people for thinking what you think, instead of having open appreciation or communication of appreciation of what do you mean by that? For what are you doing that, instead of, oh, Stephanie said happiness and I believe in joy. Oh, she's an idiot, and I do sorry to use Stephanie's name. That's like a direct attack for me. People are like, you're an idiot. You don't want happiness, you want joy. I'm like, thank you for proving my point. And I'd love to have a conversation to appreciate where you're coming from, that you are now creating unhappiness in your life to tell me that I have the wrong definition of joy and happiness. But go ahead, Craig. Sorry.
No, all good. This is great. Well said. And this is interesting because Dave talks about this all the time. And Stephanie, you articulated so beautifully. This idea that a lot of people don't want to ask for help because they think they're a burden. But there's a deeper message there. There's something happening underneath that. What do you think it is, Steph?
I think that in many ways, we've grown up being taught that if you require help, then that makes you lesser in some way. Like it puts you below or at the bottom of the hierarchy of the way that we see ourselves and compare ourselves to other people. And so to ask for help, one, you're already struggling, right? Whatever issue is making you think about asking for help, you're already going through something really hard. And then two, to ask somebody else for support ultimately makes you feel like you're going to be even more powerless. And I really want people to learn to push through that moment and that discomfort of vulnerability, and instead recognize that asking for help is not only the most human thing that we can do. We are born to help each other. We are constantly engaged in acts of reciprocity, but it is also what is exactly needed to help you to feel back to your wholeness and back to the sense of your ability to solve these problems that you're facing. And so the more that we can practice asking for help in these small ways, and it can really help us lead up to the bigger ones as well.
Dave, one of your missions, tell people to ask for more help.
Yeah, well, it's a form of faith. If you truly believe in an omniscient, all powerful, unified system of thought, if you believe there's more than enough information and energy from something that protects, promotes, loves, and perfects you more than your mom, then it's obvious that we can live in this symbiotic, harmonized universe. And what we really have to do is shift the paradigm and perspective of what am I doing to interfere with it. And we talked earlier about certain reactions to fear that people have: a need to be right, a need to be offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty. Instead of worrying about what you're afraid of, let's just start practicing every day how I react to what I'm afraid of, regardless of what I'm afraid of. Everyone's afraid of different things, and it could be multiple lifetimes, all types of trauma from previous, current, or future lives. It doesn't matter where and what you're afraid of. What we don't want to do is waste time, energy, and emotion. Where I am in that 18-year journey, we talked about non-negotiables. It was interesting because I have so much more energy at 57 years old because I don't interfere with it. I'm almost to a point where I've turned a corner in my energetic being that I have to learn to regulate it. Because when you're connected at all times to unlimited information, when you're connected to all times to unlimited energy, that most people never get to a point where they have to actually regulate it because they're interfering with it so much. They're not getting enough information. They're not getting enough energy from the omniscient, all powerful, unified system that they belong to. And so if you can work through this over, multiple decades, you actually now realize, holy shit, I got to be careful because my human experience, my human nature, and my human cellular structure and the subconscious and unconscious competency which I have can't handle infinite. That's why we're given a body and we're here to learn lessons. They keep on coming. We're going to forget them all, but we always have the power to remind, remember, and recollect them. It's a regulation that's difficult when you get to a different layer of awareness. And now you actually can utilize too much and exhaust yourself, either emotionally, physically, spiritually, because there's so much. And now you have to learn all these different techniques to regulate the flow or the downloads that you that you are capable now of receiving.
This is awesome. This is a perfect conversation, perfect time. Beautiful. As we get ready to land the plane, I wanted to ask Steph. Um, One of the things you also talk about, and it's something that I think we can all relate to, is this idea that oftentimes in life we feel like we're behind,
Hmm.
and we're really it's our race at our pace. What's a better consciousness to connect to than I feel behind?
I think it's so much more productive and healthy and enjoyable if you can instead just reflect on the fact that there's no such thing as comparing a life journey because every single one of us starts off from a different perspective. We all have unique strengths. We're all pursuing different manifestations of similar goals. And so the idea of comparing two people's life journey to me feels like comparing, a flower and a monster truck, right? Like they're not in the same category. So why would you do that? And instead, I think it's a lot more generative to focus on thinking like, this is my journey. What's the next step that would help me to unfold more of who I am, help me to step into my becoming, as we were just talking about, and allow me to further express myself and to enjoy the experiences that life has available to me. And all of a sudden, that makes it a lot easier to not only kind of quiet those fears that you were discussing, but also to allow yourself to experience the joy in the journey.
Beautiful. Dave, take us home.
Yeah, I think complete alignment. And I think one of the things that is coming through me is we all say things in different way, and it's not what we say, it's what we hear. And if you're ready to hear certain people or certain parts or certain pieces of what we're talking about, at least you're in an intentional direction of elevating your happiness, your joy, your passion, purpose, fulfillment, whatever you want for you. And it's so essential for me to empower people to know that that's why we're here. We're here to be in harmony, and there's all types of ways to get there. Please enjoy. I know as Bob Parsons told me, the founder of GoDaddy, Dave, if you can learn to love what you don't like or love, and you can learn to love what other people don't like or love in the pursuit of your potential, and you do that every day, life will tell you all its secrets and it'll become easy. And I know that when we're at ease, we're in harmony with the omniscient and all powerful. All the information and all the energy you ever will need and more is at your fingertips in a world of an abundant, unified system of thought that we all believe and all can participate in a perception of harmony. And so I encourage anyone to reach out to Stephanie, to follow her. She has such an eloquent way of explaining these things with credibility, has done the work in order to facilitate an understanding for all of us on simply how to be happy or joyful, whatever words you want to use. So I just want to give all my gratitude to Stephanie, and I look forward to doing more with you. And however I can support your mission, please let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Right back at you guys. What a joy to be with you today.
Steph, real quick before you jump, this was awesome. What's the best way for our community that I know is going to be obsessed with you? How can they maybe get more involved or keep in touch on what you have going on in your awesome movie?
Yeah, I have a book called New Happy, which covers a lot of the research that I was talking about and lays out a path on how to do it. And then I also have a ton of other content, which is all available at thenewhappy.com.
Beautiful. This is awesome. I can't wait to connect with you after. Thank you so much for the wisdom.
Thank
Uncle
you.
Dave, where are you going to be next? How can our community catch you on the road?
I think the better question now for me is where aren't I going to be next? So that's the way I feel. No, I'm going back to Denver. I'm going back to Denver for the Aspire Tour, then Chicago, then Rhode Island, just next week. And so please join me at Denver, meet up, holding court, different keynotes, the diamond lunch, the VIP dinner would be great. Chicago, meet up, holding court, speech, and Rhode Island, meet up as well. So please, David at dmeltzer.com. We would love to see you. And most importantly, Craig, I want you to encourage people one more time, if you wouldn't mind, as a third party who has gone through the journey and weren't quite ready for everything that we do. But you have your group. I've shifted my group to a private networking group, and it's thousands of people that want to help each other and know people that help each other. I do still do coaching and introductions personally on Mondays. You have your group. But that leads to over 200 different cities and events, from the Masters to NASDAQ to VIP dinners to the Aspire Tour, GITEX Tour, Sigma Tour, Web Summit Tour, all the different things that we allow people to participate in, to be in these circles. I was hoping that you could let people know how important it is to join our community and be a part of what we're doing. And if you listen to Craig and he sounds reasonable, email me directly, david@dmeltzer.com.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Dave. I think that one of the really cool special things that you do is you offer a certain vibration. And when you create these rooms, specifically these VIP dinners, there's a certain type of signal of people that are responding to that and coming to these rooms. And so aside from the wisdom of the people that are in there that share, just the different people in the room, the different relationships, the different opportunities, friendships, business, everything in between, you attract a certain type of cat, and those are the type of cats that I want to be around as much as I can. So I could not endorse what Dave is doing enough, in case you couldn't tell, 213 weeks in a row, and everything else that we do together. So yeah, I encourage people, don't walk, run, and get in the next event, the next room, the next city, wherever you are, wherever you can, and thank me later.
You got it, brother. Thank you so much. Everyone, be kind to your future self. Do good deeds. Thank you, Craig, for doing this every week without missing. Episode what?
213 in the books.
213 in the books. Next one's the Valentine's Day, 214. We love it. 528, baby. Let's do it.
Love you. Stay
You
handsome.
too. Bye.
Bye, guys. What an awesome conversation, guys. For those of you that are just getting introduced to Stephanie, check out all the awesome stuff she's got going on. Beautiful soul, her wisdom, the way she articulates it, it's universal. It's applicable for everybody. You can catch us May 15th, New York City, our next event. We have the beautiful and brilliant Dr. Caroline Leaf kicking us off, and we have a bunch of surprises. We'd love to see you. Find out more. You can text us at 917-634-3796. And let's challenge our limitations this weekend. Let's play just a little bit bigger. And don't forget who you really are. And who you really are. If you strip away all the roles and all the identities, who you really are is unlimited. Don't ever forget that. And I love you guys. Have a great weekend.